newest episode of Semi Pro. My name is Dalton Barrett, and in the studio with me, I've got my good friends Daniel Savage and Josh Clements. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
It's a
man.
very tired episde of Semi Pro today.
I'm
know what?
tired of doing this show.
You've only been on 2 episodes.
Man. It's been a long year.
And this was one of the better movies that we've watched.
Definitely going to be better than the next couple weeks.
I'm not looking forward to the
that-
next few weeks. I'm going to be completely
no.
honest with you.
That reminds me, Dalton. Me and Daniel have a surprise. That we're gonna wait after we watched what we're gonna watch for the next few weeks. On the final week, we're gonna reveal to you what we're watching the week after.
Oh, no.
I already forgot. Like, I know this is something we came up with, but I already forgot what it is.
Oh, I could never forget what it is.
I'm so nervous.
It's gonna be great.
Is it the one movie that you guys were watching on Discord the other day?
No.
No.
No, of course not. No.
The postal
No,
movie.
the Postal movie. That's a great movie. That would never be a punishment movie for you. No. That's just a masterpiece.
Cool.
Shout out Uwe Boll.
Cool. So today we are talking about Revenge of the Mid, aka what? The movie. That's
So yeah,
Man,
it
because
certainly is.
about every 15
don't know.
minutes throughout watching this movie, I just said, "What?" And that's where we're at. So, yeah. What did you guys think after your initial first watch?
Well, I don't know how to explain it because it doesn't feel right when you look at the old other movies, but this feels more like a kids movie, and maybe that's just because I watched it when I was a kid, so I inherently associate it with my childhood. But just everything about it feels so much more like this is for children than any of the other episodes. It dropped all pretense of being a Star Wars movie and just it's a kids movie.
See, I would argue, I went into this, but I walked away from this movie thinking, oh, so this is the reason that people are nostalgic for the prequels. Because it's not good. It has the same issues that the other two have, just as bad, but it's more fun. So when you're a kid and you watch this one, you're like, man, I love this.
Hey, look at this fun Star Wars stuff.
Right.
Look at this cool guy with these cool spinning purple lightning sticks.
Look, he's spinning.
Those are pretty cool.
That's a good
He's
trick.
spinning.
I mean, this is. I do like this movie. At the very least, more than the other two that you made me watch over the last 2 weeks. It's not great by any stretch. I'm still annoyed that at the very start of this movie they just go, "Oh yeah, here's a new villain. There's no explanation for him. You don't have to worry."
Right.
Which is
here's a new villain who has a human set of lungs and heart and eyes, and he's a robot, and that's just the thing.
I think it's
cool for
supposed
us
to be
now.
symbolism for Darth Vader, Daniel. They're symbolizing Darth Vader because Darth Vader comes at the end of this movie, so this is like a prototype Darth Vader.
Well, I mean, it's fine for us
Yeah,
now.
sure,
because
man.
we have Clone Wars, and Clone Wars is the savior of this movie in particular. But at the time, imagine going to the cinema. You've just watched episode 2. Anakin's just had his arm chopped off by Count Dooku, who got away, and the Clone Wars have begun. And you walk into this, and no one feels like a character from the last movie. Like everyone just kind of feels entirely new.
Yeah, that is a big issue that I noticed is nobody feels like the same person across any of these 3 movies. And except for Anakin and Padme's love scenes, those stayed out of everything we wanted from the last movie to carry over to this one. The romance between Anakin and Padme is exactly
Weird,
the same.
creepy, awkward, uncomfortable Jedi mind trick gaslight romance is still there.
Did not miss a beat with that one. So that's fun. But I don't know. This movie, I think it's more fun than Attack of the Clones for sure. And it's the action. The action is on par with the stuff in Phantom Menace. There's just more of it. but the story is equally as unengaging. And so I think for that reason, this is the one that people are nostalgic for, and maybe they've just gaslit themselves into thinking that they like the other two as well. That's all I can assume.
Right.
Um,
The, as a standalone series of movies, it's not bad, especially this one. If you watch this movie by itself, like you just jump into this movie, it's kind of alright. Like it's
I
again
disagree.
not great, but it's kind of alright.
I don't
It's
know. It's
it's got some fun moments.
It's
I'll
got
give
some
it that.
very fun moments, yes. But I do think it's just as bad. It's not as bad as Attack of the Clones, because Attack of the Clones is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. It's just as bad as Phantom Menace. It's just newer.
Well, it does have better CG. Like
Well, I don't know, man. Phantom Menace was gorgeous. But yeah, the special effects in this probably do hold up a little better.
well, like Grievous. If you compare Grievous to Boss Nass, then who looks better?
I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't remember Boss Nass at all.
Yeah, is that a Star Wars character?
That's the
I thought that was
yeah,
I thought that was the
right,
guy
right.
that tried to chase the Duke boys out of town.
All right,
Boss
the plot.
Nass was the Boss Nass was the George Lucas stand-in.
Right. I got it. Once you went, I picked up on who you were talking about. Should have said that to begin with. Let's open this movie's plot. We're just gonna crack it open, and we're just gonna go through, and we're gonna walk through the plot. Just full clarification for those listening who maybe haven't seen this movie in a while and are listening to the plot. This movie is paced horribly. And so the things we're going to talk about don't necessarily line up with the amount of time you think they should in your head. The opening battle, the crawl happens. I'm going to be honest, this was the first one. I zoned out, didn't read a word of it. Don't know what happens in the opening crawl.
I remember it starts and it says war.
I saw. Yeah, it starts with just war exclamation mark.
Yes,
and it ends with them saying
what is
that
it? What is it
Palpatine
good
has
for?
been kidnapped.
So
right.
So war exclamation point is what it says, but I was getting my notes ready on my computer as that was rolling. And so I didn't see that until it was about halfway up, and it just looks like wart because it's a bit being far away and in front of the stars. I was like, is that wart? So I had to Google it, but it says war exclamation point. It's almost like the title of these movies is Star Wars. So we just said Star Wars. Do we really need war again? I'm nitpicking. That's too much. The opening battle is really cool. It's probably my favorite scene from the whole movie. It's much better than the scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan flying in Attack of the Clones, where that was creepy and uncomfortable. This one is charismatic and fun, and Obi-Wan and Anakin seem like friends, and they're having a really good time in the middle of this war. People are dying everywhere, and it's super fun. It's made to look like a one take, which I don't really care because it's not like impressive when everything is CGI, but it's still a really cool battle. The ships are really neat looking. The clones are doing their clone thing. The droids are doing their droid thing. I still stand by it's dumb for R2-D2 to be in these movies, but he helps out Obi-Wan, and then they crash into the ship where Palpatine is, and then that was like the highlight of the movie. Everything's downhill from here. Like, that was the high point. We're just cruising at a steady pace.
I have here in my notes, it just says R2 Deus Ex Machina. I don't know what I meant by that.
Well, they just kind of say like, "Hey R2, move the elevator. Hey R2, flip the ship. Hey R2,
R2, shoot electricity out of yourself and electrocute all these guards so we can get our lightsabers back."
They also did something.
Hey R2, fix my marriage.
They did something really weird with R2 in this movie, where he's like a slapstick character, and he hasn't been in the last two. And it's kind of fun, but at the same time, it's like, what are we doing?
I did like the scene where he got buried in like other droid garbage parts.
Yeah, that one was fun. But then when he comes running down the hallway, like, and then he just crashes into the wall, like.
I always remember I remember parts of this movie more than I remember others because the episode 3 tie-in game from PS2 was like weirdly good and weirdly detailed. But because it was a tie-in game, what it did was it just had straight up scenes of the movie, and then it would cut to the video game. And the one I always remember is Grievous saying activate ray shields, and in the game, the ray shields are, as it turns out, a giant flat shield that stops you from going forward, which always messes with me because in here it's spotlights.
Right. There's also Grievous is introduced here, and he's cool looking. But we don't need a new villain, and it's very frustrating that we're getting a new villain again for the third time in this franchise.
And the villain is not Christopher Lee.
And this time he's not a Sith. He's just a robot dude with some lightsabers, which is fine, I guess. But I don't know. It does
really
seem
weird.
It does seem like they're doing like a precursor to Darth Vader type thing with him, whereas he was a human who was horribly disfigured, and so he's in a robot suit to keep him alive. That's what I think Lucas was going for.
What did George Lucas mean by this?
What did George Lucas mean? Obi-Wan and Anakin seem to actually like each other in this little opening bit. There's some stuff later where it seems like they don't like each other, but that for the most part throughout this movie, they do seem like they like each other. There's also this weird thing, and it's been coming up in the last 3 movies. And if you watch the prequels first and then go to watch the original trilogies, there's several things that you'll be confused by. And this is one that I think would really confuse me if I saw these movies first. And it's the Obi-Wan hates flying arc. Because they mention it in the last one, they hint at it in Phantom Menace, and then this movie, he just straight up says, like, human beings were not meant to fly. And it's like, it seems like that's a setup for it to pay off in the original trilogy. Like Obi-Wan tells Luke, like, I always hated flying, but he never does. And so I'm so confused as to why they decided to set that up. Why does your Jedi Knight need to be afraid of flying?
Maybe it's just a really long setup for the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Maybe so. Maybe in the show they're gonna mention that he hates flying, or maybe that was Lucas's.
Be the central arc to the character is him hating flying, and he learns to get over his fear of flying to protect little baby 10-year-old Luke.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's George Lucas's explanation for him never leaving Tatooine and staying there the whole time. Because
he was just scared.
He was scared to fly off the planet.
It's probably something to do with like the running joke of Anakin just keeps on trying to kill himself when he's flying ships.
Right.
Like in this one, Obi-Wan gets a lot of these little weird bug tick robots on his ship, and Anakin thinks, okay, how do I get them off? Oh, I'll just fly my ship into Obi-Wan's. That'll work. That's a good
We will
trick.
crash our ships into each other, and then that'll work. There's also these really cool, and I wanted to mention them, I guess, because I typed them out, but now I barely remember them, but they're coming back to me, and they were really cool. They were these ships that instead of being like ships piloted by somebody, they were just straight up droid ships. Not even ships piloted by droids. They were just droids built into ships. That was cool. I really liked those little fellas. They were very fun.
I also remember those because they were in the Lego Star Wars game. I always wanted one.
So Grievous comes in, we're introduced to him, and then they find Palpatine, who is on the ship, and Dooku comes into the room, and Palpatine looks at Obi-Wan and says, You're no match for him. He's a Sith Lord. To which Obi-Wan turns to Palpatine and says the dumbest line in the movie, which is, Sith Lords are our speciality. And they just aren't. Like they're not.
They have fought 2 Sith Lords in the past. One of which just straight up beat them, and the other one killed his master.
Is this Sith Lord who's already beaten
who
them?
won? Like,
but and this guy has won against them. You guys. They just aren't good at all.
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely not your speciality at all. You fought 2 in the last, 100 years of the Jedi Council, and they've both beat... Well, I mean, I guess Obi-Wan technically beat Darth Maul, but out of 2 Jedi, only one of them survived? Like, I
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's a net loss in terms of
Right.
your profit. All right, Obi-Wan, I'm here to explain your
You're-
financial advisor. You're at a loss when it comes to Sith Lord profit.
Your
It's-
Sith KD ratio.
It's such a stupid line. And so then Dooku comes in, Anakin and Obi-Wan fight him. Anakin is powerful enough to defeat Dooku, unless he's not, and it was all part of the plan. But Dooku seems real scared. Why didn't he just rat Palpatine out then and there?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
But yeah, yeah.
why would
Like,
why
he
would
could
the
just
Sith
go-
be loyal?
Yeah, it's
Or,
also
like, evil.
It's definitely not part of the plan because Dooku looks scared out of his mind. You
Maybe
think
he's
he
just a really good actor.
he'd look at Palpatine and just go, he's my master, right? He's trying to manipulate you.
Like this guy's the Sith Lord.
Like this dude is the Sith,
And
the one and only.
I want to take a moment here to talk about Palpatine's plan. Because I'm still lost. So at this point, we're seeing Palpatine is being rescued by Anakin and Obi-Wan from Count Dooku, who in fact is his own apprentice.
Yes.
Because Palpatine started this war simply so that he could take over the Senate, right? So he's already got control of the House. I don't know how the politics in this work. He's already got control of most of the government. Now all he needs is the Senate, and he needs to be in control of the Senate. And to do that, what he wanted to do was he wanted to frame the Jedi for a revolt, right? He wanted the Jedi to revolt against the Senate so that he could say that the Jedi were bad, take over, and rebrand the Republic as the Galactic Empire. That's his plan. To do this, he starts a war with the Jedi against a group that he created called the Separatists. So he is playing both sides so that he never loses. But he puts himself in this movie specifically, he puts himself in this ship to be rescued by the Jedi so that Anakin can kill Count Dooku. And then the ship almost crashes. And it's an absolute miracle that they survive. I'm
yeah.
lost. Why couldn't he just kill Dooku himself? Why did he need Anakin to kill Count Dooku?
Well, like him needing
Because
Anakin to kill Count Dooku, I get.
to become evil or whatever.
But
Even
this
though
is
he was
the
already
reason
evil and had
Anakin becomes
murdered.
evil.
No,
We
but
see the reason
right.
later in the movie.
This was like the.
I mean, we saw the reason earlier in the last movie when he
No,
killed
because
a
they're
bunch of
different
children.
reasons.
And then his
I kind of
his
get
wife
it.
was just fine with it.
I kind of get it. Well, no, his wife really liked it. That was the point. She loved him.
Right.
I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, keep going. Why? I guess my main
I
point
kinda
is
get it.
why did we
Given-
need
given-
a war? Why did we need a war for this to happen?
Right, no, that part's just there is no answer for that whatsoever.
Because he
But the-
almost dies so many times during this war. Like here, he almost dies. This
Well,
could have been his
well-
death. Should have been his death.
What did he say
I guess
to
I guess
Dooku?
you can say he's a Sith Lord and he's just powerful and cocky and doesn't think
Actually,
that he's
saying
gonna
that,
die.
I guess technically Dooku doesn't know that he's Palpatine. Like he doesn't know.
Now he
that his
definitely
mas-
does. That look was a look
He's-
of this is Palpatine. There's no way he doesn't know.
Well, no, because it could also be a look of like isn't this against the Jedi code or whatever? But it
Nah,
It
he
does
knows.
serve-
He knows.
it does serve towards the idea of like Anakin giving into his rage against Dooku because that's how Palpatine manipulates it later. So I kind of get that. I just don't get what like. Let's say that Dooku knew
Maybe
that
okay.
Palpatine
Here,
was
let's don't do this in an environment where there's a giant space battle going on outside.
right. Yeah, right. This is a hey. Why don't we go back to Tatooine or Geonosia or whatever?
My point with this is that Palpatine is an idiot. He's
Yes,
the worst.
Palpatine is an idiot.
He's the like. This is the worst
Palpatine-
plot I've ever
Palpatine doesn't
seen to
have a
take
plan.
over a government.
He also
Palpatine just locks
he also
into
kind of looks like Mr. Bean, which I think is worth mentioning.
He looks weirdly
Looks
different
like an
in this
old
movie.
Mr. Bean. Yeah, he looks like Mr. Bean in
He
this one.
does. All right, Palpatine is an idiot. So Anakin, Palpatine, and Obi-Wan now get captured by Grievous, who doesn't know that Palpatine is the Emperor, or doesn't know that Palpatine is Darth Sidious. So they get captured by General Grievous, who tries to kill them again. So here's another time in which Palpatine almost dies to his own plan. Grievous escapes after a fight, and Anakin winds up landing the ship successfully. There's no way, logistically, that he should have been able to do that, but he does. So cool. So here's 2 times in just the opening of this movie where the guy orchestrating this plan should have died to his own plan.
He lucks his way into everything.
Right. I mean that's
He didn't actually have a plan. He was just winging it the whole time.
Right, every time something happens,
That's
it's like,
the true dark side is just completely winging it.
just winging it.
The true dark side is improvisation.
And then Obi-Wan tells Anakin, "Hey, this was all you. Like, you did a good job today. Now go and talk to the press or whatever." And so Anakin's like, okay, I guess so. And then he, despite not wanting to do it, he's excited to see his wife, who he knew was there. So he apparently just didn't want to see her. So he meets up with Padme, and Padme tells Anakin that she's pregnant. Cool.
That scene always gets me because it's like they're meant to be having a secret meeting and they basically just walk around a column.
They didn't know the column was there.
Hall. Well, it's a very echoey hall. I feel like you hear everything that gets said in there.
Also,
like I was expecting Obi-Wan to just come back around and be, "Hey,
I'm like 5 feet away. What, you guys think you're being sneaky or something?"
You got you kissed him as he was in our group. I don't know, like
you're making eye contact with me. Like what?
Jar Jar turns around and he says, "Padme's pregnant?" Just like way up at the end of the hall. Yeah. So she's pregnant. Cool. And it's fine. I hate how we got here, but I guess we had to get here. They really backed themselves into a corner with this movie specifically. I think this movie would have been a lot better had they not set it up horribly. But the setup for this is horrible, and so they backed themselves into a corner because they've got the stuff that happened before and the stuff that happens after. And it like she has to have a baby, right? Like but they've already established now that
2 of them actually.
Right. She has to have 2. That's kind of the point of her being a person who exists.
That's why Natalie Portman was born.
Right.
Just for Star Wars.
So we cut away from this, and Grievous meets with Palpatine to talk about their next steps for what's going to happen next. And basically he's now in charge of the Separatist. He's in charge of this revolution. So he's like the main guy now that Dooku is dead. And so they put Grievous in charge for some reason, and while Palpatine is going to go and work on Anakin for him to be the new leader of the new like main general of the Empire when Grievous dies. And then we cut back to Anakin and Padme while they're in Padme's house, which Anakin is staying in, which nobody finds suspicious. And they talk about plans for their baby in the creepiest way possible. She's all like, "I want to take him back to Naboo," while she's brushing her hair. And Anakin's like, "You're so beautiful." She says, "Only because I'm so in love." And he says, No, because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you.
They're like,
punch this movie.
It's so bad, and it's so in line with what happened in the last one.
Their whole relationship is like it's like a TikTok relationship.
It's not like even that. What it reminds me of is like when you first start being romantically involved with someone you care about. You start saying stupid things like this.
Like you say cringy stuff.
You say cringy stuff, and like you've got all the endorphins in your brain, and you can stay up till 2 a.m. and you can wake up the next morning and you're not even tired, and like you say stuff like this because you're an idiot, and that's what it feels like. But they've been married
they've been together for
10
a while.
years now. I've been married for a month, and I'm not saying stuff like this anymore. Like it's. I don't know. It's so weird, and it comes across as creepy.
It's so inhuman. Like it resembles nothing like an actual normal interaction between 2 people, especially one who's just been told that they're pregnant.
Right.
Like when you tell someone you're pregnant, there's shock, there's awe, there's excitement. There's not just creepily staring at each other.
No,
and,
there
like,
was
why I'm
Josh. There was shock, awe, and excitement. They just all happened within 10 seconds of each other.
they all happened from the audience.
So after they talk about where they're gonna have the baby, Anakin has another bad dream because apparently the whole time throughout the whole original trilogy, Darth Vader has just been able to see the future, which I guess is
Right.
kind of cool. But they never touch on that ever again. Maybe he loses that ability, but he has another.
They'll probably do that again in in Kenobi. And,
I would not be
flash forward-
surprised if
They'll flash forward to a scene from episode 4 or something.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something they don't touch, which could be a cool element. But Anakin has a bad dream, and he sees Padme dying in childbirth in the dream.
He sees Padme screaming.
Yeah,
There's
but you hear the
actual
babies in the
evidence of
background.
childbirth.
You hear the
Right.
babies crying, and then when Padme goes to ask Anakin what the dream was about, he says, "You die in childbirth." Are you grunting in disagreement, or are you grunting in "I was wrong and I can't admit
I think
it"?
he's grunting in
I'm
acceptance.
pondering.
Okay.
I'd just be pondering.
I'm pondering my orb.
So they talk about it for a second, and she's like, "I'll be fine. It was just a dream." And he's like, "No, it wasn't just a dream." And then they talk for a little bit, and he's like, "It was just a dream." And so then he goes to talk to Yoda about his dream, and Yoda gives Anakin the worst bit of advice ever. He says,
He
"Not
just
to be
says,
sad about
don't care
death."
about the people you love.
Right. Don't be sad about death because love is bad. So don't
Yeah,
I don't get the Jedi. I don't.
I have in my notes. I said because I saw Yoda not flipping around, so my immediate instinct was, I kind of like Yoda in this movie. And then 1 second later, I wrote, "Never mind. I hate Yoda. The Jedi are horrible.
They're bad. Like they're
just the worst."
I do think that's on purpose. Like the Jedi
The
being
Jedi,
awful.
I don't know that it because the Jedi are like, they're like it's like a third or like a kindergartner's view on morality, where it's just like completely black and white. And I don't know if that's, like you said, intentional or if that's just.
I
I
think
have-
it was
I
set
have
up
to
to be
think-
intentional, but I think by the time we get to this movie, it's not.
George Lucas forgot that he was being ironic with them.
Right.
I think it's meant to be intentional. I just also think it's still poorly done. Like it's not good, but I do believe that he was trying to point out that the Jedi view of everything is either good or bad is ultimately what leads it to its downfall.
And I would
I just
agree with you
I just don't think
6
it's
years
done very
before this
well.
movie comes out. But by the time this movie comes out, they've done away with that plot point.
No, they just didn't focus on it enough to actually have it be an arc for the Jedi. It's just kind of a thing that happens. Like it never. There's no real focus on it. There's no real attention to it. There's no like Anakin questioning whether or not this is a good thing for the Jedi to be doing. Like, why
Well, I
don't
mean,
we,
he
why-
does, but he's the bad guy. So, like, we're not
Right.
supposed to agree. He does question if this is a good thing
But
for the
they-
Jedi to be doing, but he's the villain,
Right. Then he also kills children.
right? You know?
What-
So it's...
What they should have done. What they should have done is had Obi-Wan be the one
Mhm.
question it the whole time. Like Obi-Wan, Anakin gets rejected from being a master for the council, and he's whining about it because he's a child. And Obi-Wan should have brought that up. Obi-Wan should be the one to bring up, like, hey, why why do only Sith deal in absolutes? Because that is an absolute in itself. So I'm feeling a bit of conflict.
Right.
of
And also,
interest
like,
there.
kind of all the Jedi ideals are absolutes, saying that you can't
Like
have other
everything is good or
feelings.
bad. That, you know,
Right.
like I feel like we didn't think about this when we started it a few hundred years ago. Maybe we should go back.
It should have been Obi-Wan and Yoda are the two who disagree with what the Jedi are doing, right? And what the Jedi are doing does lead Anakin to the dark side, but Yoda and Obi-Wan, they're like, maybe we are the bad guys. Like maybe but instead, like our two good characters who are supposed to, our good guys in this movie are horrible. Anyway, Yoda tells Anakin not to be sad because love is bad. And then Obi-Wan shares his concerns about Palpatine to Anakin. So the scene that should have been about him sharing his concerns about the Jedi are actually about Palpatine. And basically, he's just concerned that he's gaining too much control. And these are valid concerns. So then Palpatine calls Anakin to him, and promises Anakin that he will be a Jedi Master on the council, but also his representative on the council. So he wants to basically spy on the council through Anakin. That's what he tells Anakin. I'm saying it,
Right.
I'm wording it like this because this is important. Because next scene, the council votes to allow Anakin to be on the council, but they don't make him a Jedi. And then they ask him to spy on Palpatine, which he is against, and he's upset about it, even though Palpatine just asked Anakin to spy on the council for him, and he's cool with that one. It's
I all I can think is Anakin's just like, I should have stayed a slave. It would have
I
been easier.
mean, like, and I get
Like, I
it.
don't.
Like, I get it on Palpatine. I get it on both sides, right? But how are you against it when the Jedi ask you to do it, but for it when this counselor asks you to do it? You know what I'm saying?
When this really shady guy who dresses in like all black and is constantly talking about death and how ruling the galaxy is the ultimate
Right,
goal.
who they also just like he just calls like his friend, even though like we've had I guess maybe this is just because there was again a time jump between Attack of
Right.
the Clones and this,
I-
but that like
I
that's
think
just
they-
never been like they've
No.
They just don't
never been
establish
introduced. They've never been established as friends. Like they're just
that. You kind
he
of
just he rescued him a couple times.
you have to watch this movie without Clone Wars because Clone Wars it's unfair. They released this movie after Episode 2 and went, yeah, no, this is a fine jump. They didn't plan for Clone Wars. They didn't go, oh, we're going to release a TV show that has 8 series of character development.
What are you saying?
and-
What are you saying? George Lucas wasn't thinking ahead.
Well,
What are you
here's
trying
my
to
point.
say?
Let's say hypothetically he was. Like, let's say Clone Wars was the plan to bridge the gap. He thought that a bunch of people who were watching this movie who weren't children were going to watch the cartoon show that's going to fill in the
Right,
gaps
just
between the
just
two.
to understand
Like,
these movies.
like it's like homework. We talk about this quite frequently on the podcast. I hate doing homework for movies. Like, I don't want to have to read a comic book or watch another TV show just to understand this movie. I hate it.
Right,
Don't do that to me.
especially like a sequel movie where it should just be a sequel to
Right.
the movie, the things introduced and the ideas introduced in the movie before it.
So during the council meeting where Anakin is made a part of the council but not a Jedi, Yoda goes to Kashyyyk, the Wookiee planet, to help with the war. And this is where Anakin and Obi-Wan talk, and they ask Obi-Wan asks Anakin to spy on Palpatine. The council basically does, but they use Obi-Wan because they're scared to ask him. And then Anakin goes back home and he voices his concerns to his wife. He vents to her about his bad work day. And she also asks him to spy on Palpatine. And she's like, hey, can you please tell Palpatine to stop the war? Like, I don't think this is right. He needs to give up his power, whatever. And so Anakin gets mad at her for asking him to do the thing that everyone else can see as a problem, and he's the only one who can't.
Anakin just
Remember when-
whines.
Anakin's an idiot. Palpatine and Anakin are two main bad guys of the original trilogy. The Emperor
They're
and
just
Darth
idiots.
Vader are idiots. Like, they're
This
so
is-
stupid.
The ultimate issue with these movies boils down to the fact that, I don't like Anakin because he's a whiny idiot who gets a lot of like good stuff that happens to him, and he still whines about it.
Uh-huh.
Palpatine's an idiot who doesn't have a single plan and can't think of what to do and just lucks into every situation. The Jedi are idiots who continue to just be dumb in every single situation. They go, oh, we should probably spy on this senator, and then refuse to act on it properly. When they eventually find out something's wrong, they go, oh, we'll just send, a handful, we'll be all right. That'll be fine to kill the ultimate Sith Lord. Both sides of this army are dumb because the clones exist just to betray the Jedi, and
Right, well,
the
the whole
droids exist.
concept of this like proxy war is just so pointless to begin with because it could have been over before it started.
That, I guess, that's my biggest problem. But like, the Jedi being idiots is one thing because they were completely and utterly unprepared for this. Palpatine being an idiot is inexcusable because this whole operation was his idea.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this was all something that he planned out, and yet he's still an idiot. And Anakin being an idiot is just, he's just autistic. as established in the
Right,
last
yeah.
movie. And it still comes across in this one that he's just being puppeted by people around him. Like he has no character of his own. He has no authority on his own. And it's like
Right,
he's
like
just
come
a
on, man,
puppet,
get a backbone.
right? Like even his wife can't convince him that the bad guy is the bad guy. Everyone else can see it except him. Until he sees it, but we'll get to
and
that.
then he goes, and then he goes, "Oh, I think I'm a bad guy now." And the more, like, I hadn't seen the prequels in a long time, and as I've watched them, I've realized that the robot chicken version of the Emperor is more sane than the actual Emperor.
Like it's nuts. So Anakin goes to meet Palpatine at the theater after Padme asks Anakin to tell Palpatine to stop the war. So I'm assuming that's what he's going there to do. Like he's like, my wife told me that we need to stop the war, so I'm gonna ask you. And so he goes to meet him at the theater, and then Palpatine tries to convince Anakin that the Jedi want to overthrow him, which there's no real, like, there is a bit of truth to that, but it's for valid reason, right? They want to get him out of power because he's been in power too
He's
long.
an evil man.
What he is doing is in direct contradiction to how the Republic is supposed to work. So they're trying to get him out of power so that there is not a dictatorship. That's the goal. So he's right in doing so. Or the Jedi are correct in doing so, but Palpatine frames it in a way to try to convince Anakin that the Jedi are the bad guy. Then
Palpatine is gaslighting.
he's gaslighting Anakin, to which Anakin tells Palpatine about his bad dreams about his wife dying or something.
I don't think he even does. I think
Does he? Does he not?
I don't think he. I think Palpatine just like knows that, and
Maybe he
Anakin
does.
like doesn't question that,
Maybe he does.
or is
And he's just-
zoned out.
He goes-
Both are
or
possible.
that.
Anakin goes to him and he's talking like he doesn't even say a word, and Palpatine's
Just
just
like oh,
no,
so
about your
wife's
wife
dying, right? It's about your
He's
wife
just-
dying in childbirth.
and he's just like, I just walked in, man. What?
I'm
So
sorry, have
then-
we met?
So Palpatine tells Anakin the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, which I'm assuming Darth Plagueis was his own master, or this is just some Sith tale that's been passed down from generation to generation. I
But
don't know what to
it
think.
was.
I interpret it as his master, or at least his master's master, something like that.
Right, something along those lines. Which just which adds this whole thing to the Sith, where it's like, why would you ever train an apprentice? Why would you do that? like what's the point in having an apprentice if you know they're just gonna kill you? Because every single time the apprentice winds up killing the master. So Darth Plagueis
Hey,
had this.
maybe this one's gonna be different. You know.
Darth
I
Plagueis
can fix him.
was so powerful in the Force that he could create life and also keep people from dying. Like he could stop death, which we find out later that the Jedi can do. Like we found that out in recent years.
Well,
that the Jedi can heal people.
Yeah, but this goes back to like I can't hold that against this movie because that's more in the sequels that's more J.J. Abrams for just kind of inventing this like thing.
Well, I guess it'd be more on Filoni because
Right,
he did
yeah.
it first. Grogu can
Right.
heal people before
Well, but
Rey could do it. But either way, yeah. So I get
Even
it.
then, that like I can't hold that against this movie. However, I can hold against this movie the fact that Anakin trusts this literal madman.
Like
Right.
if somebody
Just
comes
this
up
guy
to
that
you
looks
talking
like
like
Mr.
this,
Bean.
if somebody says something like this to you, leave. Walk.
I know,
Number one,
I'm just.
if I live in this world and I'm Anakin, right, and I'm a Jedi, and I've heard all these Jedi stories, and this guy sits here talking to me, I'm doing the thing that Anakin does later in this movie, where I'm pulling out my lightsaber and I'm saying, "You're the Sith Lord. You're under arrest." It's done. Like it's over in that moment because you know. Like how do you not
Anakin-
know at that point?
Anakin just goes, "Look, I really need to stop you. I'm going to go to the toilet." And then he steps out and he speaks into the razor mic that Qui-Gon used, the shaving razor that they pretended was a microphone. And he just goes, "Yes, he just told me he was the Sith." Like he just straight up admitted it to me.
If you're talking about like the dark side, yeah, no, I think we got him.
He keeps talking about this guy called like Darth Plagueis or something. He just straight up said, "Hey, I'm this guy. It's me. I'm the man in the
It's me.
story.
I am the Darth Sidious.
I am the
Right.
Revenge of the Sith."
So after Anakin hears the story, and he's like, yeah, Anakin's like, how can somebody learn this power? And Palpatine says, not from a Jedi. And then we cut. Obi-Wan goes to fight Grievous on the planet that he's on, the big crater,
Utapau.
the big crater planet. And then Anakin has another bad dream about Padme's death, and then I just have in my notes here, Anakin wants more. I think this is the scene where he throws a fit about wanting more, because it's presented as, because one of the things Palpatine mentions in his little speech is that power corrupts, and you just want more power. That's apparently a symptom of the dark side, so I guess that makes sense. So he's being corrupted, I guess, but it really comes as a snapshot later that he is corrupted in like one go, so I don't know why they're setting that up. The clones show up while Obi-Wan is fighting Grievous, and there's a little fight that breaks out, and that's kind of fun. And then Anakin goes to report to Palpatine that Grievous has been captured, and this is when Anakin finds out that Palpatine is a Sith Lord, and he gets all mad at him, and he's like, hey, you're a Sith Lord. I can't believe I trusted you. And then
How could I have seen this coming?
and then he just leaves. Like he didn't do anything about it. Like he just walks away, and he goes and tells Mace Windu. Obi-Wan kills Grievous, and Mace Windu and some other Jedi go after Palpatine. They tell Anakin to stay behind because it's too dangerous. But Anakin, being an idiot, doesn't listen. And he goes after them, not because he's an idiot, but because he wants to save his wife or whatever. And then Palpatine and Mace Windu fight for a bit. I'm losing it. Anakin and Palpatine fight for a bit. Mace Windu dies because Anakin chooses to save Palpatine's life because he needs Palpatine to help him save Padme. So the reason that we've been presented in the last two movies that he's going to turn is because he can't control his anger. Even at the beginning of this movie, it's set up that he can't control his anger. But it turns out that's not what makes him turn to the dark side at all. Like the thing that we've been setting up.
He wants to save his wife.
It's because he wants to save Padme, which is a fine reason. I'm okay with him turning to the dark side because he wants to save Padme. It's a little weird to look at Darth Vader and think, man, the whole reason you're Darth Vader is because you're a simp. Like that's a little odd in retrospect, but I'm okay with it. But why set up the anger thing if you're not going to pay it off? You know?
I guess maybe it's meant to be like it's both.
But it's not presented as both as he's turning.
The anger made him angry, and that's what made him accept.
The anger made him angry.
Anger made him angry. You know.
But it's just like the whole reason he saves Palpatine's life is because he needs him to teach him how to save Padme. And so he saves Palpatine's life, and then just instantly he's like, I'll do whatever you ask. Just help me save my wife. I'll do whatever. I'll kill as many of my friends as humanly possible.
I'll kill as many children as you want.
Look, you point at someone, they're dead.
Dead instantly. I will stab and slice up a child. Just teach me how to save my wife. And then Palpatine tells Anakin, yeah, I don't really know how to do it, but we'll figure it out. Number one, you tell me that, you're dead instantly. Like, I'm slicing you up.
But you tell me that, I'm like, okay, well, that's a shame, isn't it? And then you just kill him. That's it. That's the end.
He's like...
Anakin gets... Basically, in this movie, Anakin just falls for a pyramid scheme. Look, if we do this...
That's all the Sith are.
Yeah, the Sith is just one giant pyramid scheme where they keep telling the one below them, like, oh, if you help me, then we'll sell you enough shares to let you know how to reach the Xenu part of the whole shebang. Like, just say no. The Sith are consistently the worst people ever.
Like I have here in my notes, it just says, LOL, Yoda said General Grievous. Continue though.
So, Palpatine renames Anakin to Darth Vader, which is fine. Palpatine tells Vader to go and kill the Jedi, and then he will be powerful enough to save Padme, even though Palpatine doesn't know that that's even possible, because he was never taught by Darth Plagueis to do so. The Jedi, all except Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda, are killed. Even though Anakin's not a Jedi, he kind of bounces back and forth during this period of the movie. They're all killed. Anakin kills some children. Immediately after murdering the children, he goes to see his wife with her pregnant babies. And then he just talks to her about what's going on. He lies to her and says that the Jedi are revolting, but the Senator has given him a special task, and he's going to go kill the rest of the Separatists. So then he goes to the planet Mustafar. Palpatine goes before the Senate, and he takes over the Senate. And Anakin and
very easily.
He just like slices.
He just walks in and he goes, "I am the Senate now," and they go, "Yeah, okay."
And they're like
All right,
cheering
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Also, this man is wearing a dark cloak and has like the most evil face you've ever seen, and he just goes,
He has
"Oh, yeah."
like glowing yellow eyes, which is
And
like
he's
a known Sith thing in this universe.
and he's just like,
And he's
"Yeah, I got
"Oh,
attacked."
the attack has left me horribly scarred and disfigured."
And I guess I get it, because stuff like this happens in real life, right? Like people word things not like Hitler. Take Hitler, for example. Hitler did the same thing, right? People who should have been opposed to Hitler were for Hitler because there was turmoil going on, and he promised to end the turmoil and do the right things. So I guess I can see why the Senate would have been for this, but then he just laughs maniacally and says, "I'm rebranding as the new Galactic Empire," and then he just starts laughing.
And he starts shooting lightning out of his fingers. And they're just like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
She goes ultimate power.
Right. So Palpatine now has control of the Senate. Obi-Wan and Yoda, they realize that Anakin has turned and is the one who murdered the children. And Ewan McGregor's performance in this scene is genuinely heartbreaking. Like, it's such a good... It would have been great had we seen them as friends before this movie.
Before the 10 minutes that we saw them together in this movie. But yeah, Ewan McGregor's acting absolutely carried this movie. That's the one thing that watching this movie has made me excited for the Obi-Wan show. Not that I wasn't already, but you know.
But it's
like,
more
like
Ewan
this
McGregor
scene
really does.
specifically, like
He
he's
saved
cracking
this movie.
and he's like, number one, we should remind everybody that Jedi are not supposed to form attachments. But he's like, I'm so attached to Anakin, I can't go after him. You're gonna have to go after Anakin. I'll go after Palpatine. Like, but I can't do it. And Yoda's like,
I can't kill this guy who's like a brother to me, even though we've never seen him be like a brother to me on screen.
I cannot,
trust me, it happened off screen.
I can't kill this boy who I raised, Yoda. I need you to do that, and I'll take the Emperor, because it's not going to go well if I go after Anakin. And Yoda's like, nope, you're not powerful enough. I'll go after the Emperor. You go kill the boy you raised. And so, because Yoda's the worst.
Yoda just doesn't care about anything anymore. He's just like, he's so tired of Anakin.
It's called being a Sigma male, all right? You just wouldn't get it.
I think Yoda has realized that they've lost at this point, and he's like, I guess we'll try it.
He knows that like the creepy old man is a slightly easier fight than the young guy who's like full of energy and stuff, and he's just like, hear me out.
The young guy that they've been describing as Star Wars Jesus for the past 3 movies.
Right.
Yoda just doesn't want to admit he's wrong, and so he's just like, no, you know, I think if you fight him, it will go really well. Yeah. You fight him. I'm gonna go live on the swamp planet for a few years.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna go crawl through these vents.
You missed over the scene where Yoda's now friends with Chewbacca because
right,
they had to.
I put that in my notes. Because I didn't realize it was Chewbacca until. So I have in my notes. Right, I have damn this little MF going hard. In regards to that one little Padawan or youngling that took on like 8 clones.
That dude went in.
None of the other Jedi did anything other than Yoda.
I think that's like George Lucas's grandson.
It was actually all of the members of NSYNC.
that was actually Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
Then
gonna
I have
retcon that.
right after that I have Chewbacca looks like shit. Also, why make that Chewbacca other than hey, remember Chewbacca?
Yeah, and he doesn't look good. It's the worst looking Chewbacca has ever looked.
It's also the worst looking Wookiee in this movie. Like
Yeah.
all the other Wookiees
Right.
look better than
Well,
him.
all the other- well,
the
all the
other
other
the
Wookiees are
other
like-
Wookiees were
like
touched
Pat-
up with CGI, but I think to keep the consistency between this and the original trilogy, because they care about that for this one scene, they decided not to
Right.
touch up Chewbacca, and he doesn't look good.
I only ever knew that it was Chewbacca again, because of the Lego game. Because in the Lego game for this part of the movie, you play as Yoda and Chewbacca fighting your way through Kashyyyk to try and get to the rocket, and it ends in a really frustrating bit where you have to force pull the rocket out of the ground while stormtroopers continue to attack you and interrupting you. It's the worst thing in the world. So I have a special hate for that scene. And I don't know.
Do
it
you
just-
not
it
remember the
feels so
part in the
weird.
scene where Yoda says, "Thanks, Chewbacca. You're a lifelong friend"?
Right.
I just zoned out for most of that part because I didn't care.
right,
I didn't
right.
care about Yoda and these two Wookiees who I've never seen him with prior to about 5 minutes before that scene.
Right, I get it. No worries, no worries, no sweat. Yeah.
I also have here in my notes right after that, in regards to the scene of Padme finding out that Anakin just murdered a bunch of children, she says, "No, not Anakin. He couldn't."
And it's like,
in
ma'am,
the past movie, she was very aware of him murdering women and children.
Yeah.
And not just that, but also saying that he thinks that he should, or that not that he should be, but there should be someone in their political system who just kills people that don't agree with them.
The thing is, she had to put that on because in her mind, she was actually thinking, God, this is so hot.
She's like, oh my god, I really should have seen the signs.
she's
There were
like-
so many red flags. Oh my god.
She was actually
It's
just
not
thinking,
even
"Man,
that. No, she
I
is
wanna have more
actively
children."
turned on at the moment.
Right?
She's just like, man, I think I want to have more kids
Like,
with him.
oh my god. Oh. Like, is it
She's
possible to make
crying. She's crying because he's too busy out there killing people for her to be with him, and that's when she loves him the most.
this- right.
So, Obi-Wan goes to Padme in the scene that we were just talking about to track down Anakin so that he can kill him. And she's like, "No, I won't tell you where he's at." And then I don't know what happened. I zoned out, but they're together when they land on Mustafar. So I guess she came around to her senses. And then Obi-Wan and Anakin.
She took the ship to the cool looking chrome ship to Mustard Fart.
She took the iced out.
She took him to her penthouse and then she freaked it. And Obi-Wan snuck in and hid in the little like Harry Potter broom closet.
Oh, cool.
God, yeah, Obi-Wan's like, hey, Anakin's on this planet. You should go see him. Just don't check your ship.
Just don't look in your
Don't-
very,
don't
very
look in the
large
broom closet.
your comically large ship.
Look, you might see me walk on. It's not me. You're
It's a
you're
different
seeing
guy.
things.
Look, I'm
That's,
just there
that's
to keep you safe,
C-3PO,
Padme.
actually.
Like I don't want to kill him. I just want to keep you safe.
I'm not gonna kill him.
Gonna step out. I'm not even gonna step out of the ship. You know.
I'm gonna stand there in the doorway with my hands on my hips like Superman. That's all I'm gonna do. I promise.
I'm gonna. Well, I just want you to know it's gonna be like a 3-hour trip to Mustafar. I'm just gonna spend that time mastering my disappointed dad pose. So that I think that's really gonna
I'm
break
yell,
him out.
hey, let go of her. Leave her alone.
So,
And then
so Anakin gets mad at Padme for bringing Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan actually snuck on the ship to begin with. She gets mad. He chokes her a little bit. He basically just makes his full transformation to the dark side at this point. And then Obi-Wan and Anakin fight for 30 minutes. And that's not an
Yeah.
exaggeration. I timed it. They fight for 30 minutes.
I have in my notes because I was really hoping there was a scene where one of their lightsabers got knocked away and they were just kind of fighting over the one, and then that other one got knocked away, and there were like 5 seconds where they just fist fought, and I was really hoping I wish just like half of the scene was just them just like fist fighting just for a second, or like force fist fighting or something. And then they finally get their lightsabers back, and then he chops them in half and all that good stuff. Leads to Darth Vader.
I
But
was hoping.
it was just 5 seconds. Then they force pulled their lightsabers back.
I was
they just
hoping
both
that
throw
this
the
scene would
lightsabers out
end
the window.
sooner. Like that was my hope. I was hoping
I was really
this
just
fight
hoping this
wouldn't last
movie
so
would
long.
end
Um,
sooner.
So while Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting, Yoda and Palpatine fight, and it's comical because Yoda's just flipping around.
I didn't mind Yoda flipping around in this movie. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't hate it.
But the Mustafar fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is too long. And we'll get to that in a minute because that's going to be like my closing discussion on this movie. And Obi-Wan wins, I guess, because he thinks he's murdered Anakin. He chops him in half, and then Anakin catches on fire. So then Obi-Wan grabs his lightsaber and walks away.
I don't get why he didn't like finish him off. Like even if this wasn't like, you know, like the boy that you raised that was a friend of yours and you knew was horribly evil. Like
It's like it's so far gone from him.
well, like it's like even like if I saw like the worst person in the world burning to death like
Hitler.
that.
If you
like
saw
that,
Hitler.
if I saw Hitler burning to death like that, I would mercy kill him. Like even though it's Hitler, I'm not
at
like
that point-
I'm not sadistic enough to just watch and let someone just burn to death.
And look, you're watching
And I'm
them,
pretty
then you're-
sadistic.
They're like burning to death, and you're just still berating them for it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they're suffering enough. You don't need to say that. Too.
I think he gets the point. I love like once again, Ewan McGregor's acting phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it makes me
I
believe.
do-
that's the only part that makes me believe.
And,
Like, he actually
that
cares.
they had a genuine friendship. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, maybe he really was like his brother. Maybe he
Then
did
you
love
cut
him.
to Anakin, and he just says, "I hate you."
And he has it's like the Brendan Fraser eyes, where they're just like, or like the Snapchat filter to like make your eyes look like you're crying.
Make your eyes look like Brendan Fraser.
Right.
Oh. And then as Obi-Wan is leaving, they must like it's like that meme. They must pass each other in the atmosphere as they're going around, and they just stare at each other's eyes, like, "Oh shit, this is happening."
Hey man.
Hey, all good seeing you here.
Hong Kong.
And then Palpatine just comes out and saying, "Yeah, we'll make do."
He's alive. He's fine. We'll just put him in the new version of the Grievous suit.
Right.
So Palpatine finds Anakin and he puts him in the Darth Vader suit. The babies are born and Padme dies. Darth Vader says, "No!" I do like the scene immediately before that. That's really cool when Palpatine tells Anakin that he killed Padme and he just like crushes everything in the room.
Yeah,
That's a
I
cool
did
scene.
really like that. Big fan of that.
But then it's ruined by the fact that he screams no.
I also have here, Goofy Odd Droid said "Ooba Dooba."
He does say that. The droid does say that as the babies are being born. I guess it's in their language.
Goes, "Ooba Dooba."
Why don't the droids just speak English?
Because it's not funny.
I guess that's
Right.
true. Yeah, so the babies are born and Padme immediately names them. Like the boy comes up and she's like, "Luke."
like,
and then the
"Oh,
girl comes up and
oh,
she's
Luke."
like, "Leia." It's like she's saying it as quick as possible.
Imagine
Just so the
that
movie
she like
can be over.
imagine that she dies and like everyone just turns to Jimmy Smith. He's like, "How do we? They're both girls."
No, because that's what the alien was saying. She was telling Padme the gender of
Right.
the
Ooba,
babies.
Ooba Dooba meant girl.
So the babies are born. Padme dies.
Also, one more thing in regards to that scene. I have here people talk shit about the somehow Palpatine has returned thing, but have no problem with the somehow she has lost the will to live, which is the
I
reason
also-
that she dies in this.
She
Like,
dies
she has
from a
no
broken
medical.
I also want to point out
Correct.
that people will act like this. Okay, this is my last Jedi Defender stance coming in, but people will actively point out that Anakin is fine in Episode 6 as like a redeemed character, even though he slaughters children and they show it. And then they're like, "Oh, but Luke pulled out his lightsaber for 1 second while looking at a kid. Irredeemable, ruined the character.
Ruined the character. My childhood hero.
My childhood ruined. Oh, but Darth Vader killing children. No, that unlike Padme, that just makes me
That's
really
fine,
like him.
yeah.
I love him
Right.
more.
Babies are hidden. Construction begins on the Death Star. Roll credits. Ba-dum, 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 bum, which is weirdly upbeat for the ending of this movie.
Right.
In the movie where basically everyone is dead, no one is happy, everyone's miserable, and they're like da 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 da. Da.
And here, my last note is Uncle Owen do the Luke thing. Every single word misspelled other than Owen, and then just shout out to Joel Edgerton, who I'm very excited to see back on the Obi-Wan show.
Here's what's more interesting to me than Uncle Owen do the Luke thing is the horrible makeup on young Moff Tarkin. It's
you mean
so
the-
ugly. Did you
You
catch
mean the
it,
one
Daniel?
thing-
I genuinely I did not realize that
So
was
you need to Google it.
meant
So
to
so
be.
a guy walks up and he hands the Death Star plans or whatever to Darth Vader and the Emperor while they're standing on their ship watching the Death Star be built, and it's Tarkin, and you can tell it's supposed to be Tarkin, but it's the worst makeup I've ever seen in my life.
It's just a thin guy. That's all it is. It's a thin guy, and they just try and like
It's a
They,
thin
like,
guy,
cut
but
out
they
his
built up all this
cheekbone.
makeup on his face, like prosthetics, to make him look like Tarkin.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's bad. So roll credits. I've got a list of things that I hate. It's much less than the last movie's list of things that I hate. Anything dealing with love, any of the love scenes, hate it. It's so bad. The Mustafar fight is on the list of things that I hate because it's too long and it's boring.
I did like about the mustard fart fight. They there was that scene where they swung on the ropes like pirates. I was hoping they would have like a lightsaber fight midair like that. Didn't
that would've
happen.
been- that would've
I
been
don't know why I kept hoping for things I knew weren't in
I,
this
I
scene
kept
'cause
hoping
I'd
that this
seen
fight
it.
would be better.
I was showing like maybe this time I watch it. Maybe it'll be good.
Oh,
the problem is it's a
the-
quarter of the movie long and nothing
Right.
exciting happens.
Star Wars is an abusive boyfriend. Like, you keep hoping that it's going to be better this time, and you know it's not, but you just keep coming back to it anyway.
Right. So the Mustafar fight is on the list of things that I hate. Padme dying of a broken heart, and then no. Those are all of the things on the list of things that I hate.
And then
just
no.
no.
Just well, it's Darth Vader screaming no after.
Right.
The more
I thought you were just saying no to this movie.
Well, yeah, that too. So
the more I see of Grand Moff Tarkin, like I hadn't seen the picture of him, the like profile picture that they did of him. The more it doesn't look like it looks like a wax figure.
Yeah.
because he's covered in wax to make him look like Grand Moff
Like
Tarkin.
Well, there's one here that I'm seeing, which is just the most abhorrent picture I think I've ever seen in my life. And I'm gonna show it to you two because I want to get your reactions on this. It's the worst.
It's bad. I'm telling you, it's bad. The makeup is bad. Anyway, this movie.
Wow, he really
So-
just does look like he's wax.
So here's the thing that we can't the point that we can't get across, or I can't get across in a discussion like this, because we're just kind of going through points of the movie, like plot points. This movie is paced so horribly. like it is genuinely so poorly paced, because there's a really exciting opening scene and then nothing happens for the next 30 minutes. And then like things happen, but nothing good like nothing beneficial happens. I would argue nothing beneficial happens at all, but you get my point. And then halfway through the movie, Anakin turns to the dark side. That's halfway. That's the ending of your movie.
Like that's like when I was watching this movie. I was even talking to Dan a little bit when I was watching it, and I got to the point where Anakin was, slaughtering children and stuff, and I thought, okay, so this is the start of the third act, and then I checked how much runtime I had left, and I had an hour of the movie left.
Well, the problem is, you're right. It is the start of the third act, but the third act
third
is
act is-
half of the movie.
Yeah.
And
I kept thinking I was halfway through this movie when I wasn't.
it's just so, it is so poorly paced. And that's so frustrating, because we know how movies are supposed to play out. Like, we know how they're supposed to work, because that is and movies work that way on purpose. It's not like, oh, they broke the mold on how we make movies. It's not that. We know how movies are supposed to work, and they work that way because that is how you tell a satisfying story. A story is satisfying when you have a good beginning, a solid middle, and a strong landing. This movie has a very
Nothing.
short beginning,
Nothing.
the middle at the beginning, and then the end halfway through the movie. And it makes for a really unsatisfying story, which is why I'm saying, like, yeah, I can see how when you're a child and you don't care about the story, this movie would be nostalgic to you today because there's a lot of really cool things that you remember. But if you go into this movie, it's so hard. It's a drag to sit through because there are so many huge chunks of nothing happening to advance the plot. But once the plot is advanced as far as it can advance in this movie, it still keeps going for another hour and a half. And so this movie, that's the reason I say that this movie is probably just as bad as the rest of the prequels. It just has more fun stuff in it. Because this movie suffers from nothing happening at all.
I have
weird.
here in my notes every scene with Obi-Wan, best scene, and then followed by and clones and Wookiees and basically everyone but Anakin.
I wish this movie was an Obi-Wan movie. Like, I know we're getting an Obi-Wan series, so I can't be
Yeah.
too mad. But I wish the whole thing should have been
I
focused
mean, no,
on Obi-Wan.
like I said, the best thing that watching this movie has done for me is get me even more excited for the Obi-Wan show.
Well, so this goes back to a greater problem with the prequels in general. The prequel trilogy in general suffers from the fact that there is no main character. Like, you would think it'd be Anakin, but Anakin is never really presented as the main character. You would think it'd be Padme, but she's never... Obi-Wan should have been the main character of these three movies.
Right. It's like, I mean, it's like they couldn't decide which character was the main character, so it was just like, let's just have them all have scenes. Sometimes they're together.
Like
Sometimes they tie into each other.
The original trilogy is an ensemble cast, but Luke Skywalker's the main character, and
Yeah.
that comes across. The sequel trilogy is the same way. Like, it's an ensemble cast, but
Rey's the main
Rey
character.
is the main character. Easy.
Right.
Like, it's very easy to pick and choose who is the main character of those movies. With this one, there isn't. And so there's nobody for us to put our focus and our investment in. Number one, because they're all horrible, but number two, because we're never presented with a main character. Like,
I think what happened was they like, obviously they intended Anakin to be a main character, and
Then they were like, maybe we shouldn't make our main character this like child murderer.
right,
but even in the last
also just
one, you
like-
could have made him the main character of Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones, but he's not.
I think what happened was they
Well,
were
he was
trying to do
because he was
like
the
a-
child murderer in that too. They
That's
just
true, that's true,
they just forgot about it in this one.
like it was. I think either they did it and then they thought, man, this character's just bad. We need to get a better focus. Or the more likely one was that they had Obi-Wan and that Ewan McGregor was doing such a good job that they wanted to shift focus to him, but then they couldn't because Anakin needed to be built up. So they just kind of had this weird back and forth with the two of them. So neither of them get much showtime. And then the only thing that saves Obi-Wan is the fact that Ewan McGregor is a fantastic actor.
He's the only person who knows what to do with this dialogue. And that's been beat to death a million times. Like, everybody who's ever talked about these movies has mentioned that. He's the only person who knows what to do with this horrible script. Because he's the only person who can give it any sort of, like, chemistry or humanism or make it sound like real words. Like, he's not saying real things. If you listen, he's not written any different. He's written just as bad as everyone else. But even Samuel L. Jackson can't do anything with this script. Like, there's nothing.
He gets a purple lightsaber.
He does get a purple
Yeah.
lightsaber. That's true. He got that in the last movie, though. I don't know. This movie is that's the reason this one is frustrating to me. The last one was frustrating because it's horrible. The Phantom Menace is frustrating because it doesn't really expound upon really good ideas. This movie is horrible because this movie is frustrating to me because it's such a bad job at it fumbles the ball at just telling a very basic story. But I think you're kind of backed into a corner when making these movies. And this is the perspective I have as now after watching them with fresh eyes here to do this series we've done. there's no way to make these movies good. I don't think. I don't think there's any way to make a prequel trilogy that is good because this story was never meant to be told. Right? It's borderline impossible to take the original trilogy and the story of this guy who was a good guy who turned into a bad guy and he's now like the main villain of this. Like it's very difficult to then take that and go back and tell the story of how we got there because it's not going to make any sense and it's not going to be satisfying. And so I think that's probably part of the problem. But I just
you know what was pretty satisfying? Those weird like it was like the ship ports on the like weird puzzle face alien planet where Grievous was hiding, where Obi-Wan rode the big lizard and said hello there. It was like the ship ports that were like they looked like a whale's skeleton. I liked those a lot. That was quite satisfying. That was pretty sick.
That chunk of the movie with Obi-Wan and Grievous on the crater planet, that was my favorite chunk of the movie.
No, I love that. I loved Obi-Wan just kind of winging it, just riding the little feathered lizard thing.
The thing
Rest
that
in
goes
peace.
like,
It goes whoop, 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 whoop.
It went cuckoo-ca-cha, cuckoo-ca-cha.
My dog really hated when that noise happened in the movie. Like every time he would start growling at the screen.
I think your dog just recognized
hated
what the
the
movie
movie.
was.
Maybe. All right, final thoughts, everyone. I guess I've kind of shared mine already. Josh, I know yours is going to be nostalgically biased, and you're going to love this movie.
I was just going to say no. I was just going to say no to the movie. I like I say I'm a bit biased because of other things that made this nicer to watch, like the video games. But the movie on its own, I think it's at least visually interesting enough to the point that I can turn my brain off and just have it on in the background, which is more than I can do for the other two. Maybe Phantom Menace, but I
will never turn Attack of the Clones on ever again.
No, I refuse to watch them. Like, even if someone sits me down and is like, "Hey, we're watching Attack of the Clones," I will walk out. I am never seeing that movie again. It was the worst experience of my life. But this isn't as bad. It's at least like there's fun moments in it, which kind of it's a fun moment, and then you feel like you're just waiting for the next fun moment that never really comes.
So what you're saying is there's one fun moment in all of this movie.
It's the opening scene. There's like two fun moments.
It's any moment with Obi-Wan.
and any scene with Obi-Wan.
Right.
Any scene with Obi-Wan. Basically, you're sitting here and you're thinking this Obi-Wan scene's good, and then it cuts back to Anakin, and you just go,
"Oh my god!" Then you zone out. You scroll on your phone, look through Twitter, go on TikTok. Then Ewan McGregor's back. All right, zone back in. I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I was expecting to because I hadn't seen it in years, and I was never really clouded by nostalgia with it. I kind of always didn't like it or any of the prequels, but I enjoyed this movie. I would watch it again in a couple years once I've forgotten about it.
Once I've forgotten how much I hate this movie, I will definitely watch it again.
I don't like this movie.
That's kind of how I feel about the Star Wars prequels in general. People praise them, and then I'll be like, maybe I need to rewatch them. Like maybe they're better than I think. And then I go to watch them, and I'm like, no, I was right. Everybody else is wrong. These movies are as bad as I remember them being. I still stand by my point that Phantom Menace is the best of the three.
This is the only of the prequels that I watched within the past 5 years, so I can't really comment on this.
Phantom Menace isn't as fun as this movie, I will say. But
I hate it. Mid
from like a
Phantom Menace
from like a script perspective. I think,
mid-chlorians.
I think that Phantom Menace, from a storytelling perspective, Phantom Menace brings the most to the table. And it's very visually interesting. And the characters in that, I was going to say they're not as unlikable, but Qui-Gon Jinn's the worst. But that movie does enough to have at least a semblance of a plot. Okay? And Attack of the Clones has no plot at all. And this movie has a plot that's so basic that they had to fill for the whole movie with just pointless stuff. And the pacing is so bad in this movie that it makes it very unsatisfying. That's what I'll say. Okay, I hate all three of these movies. At least The Phantom Menace is somewhat satisfying in that it ends.
I think the reason I like this is the highs of this movie are higher than The Phantom Menace.
Yes, but I would say there are more highs in the
But
Phantom Menace.
there are more highs in
Yeah.
The Phantom Menace.
It's a quantity versus quality thing.
Right, yeah. This movie just makes me feel better because I think it looks visually better.
See, I don't
It's
know, because
not-
Phantom Menace is gorgeous. Like, that movie is beautiful. Attack of the Clones is ugly.
Right.
And
No one here is going to try and defend Attack of the Clones. I don't think.
this movie's...
Wait, hold on. You mean my favorite movie with the best Star Wars character in history, the giant green praying mantis?
You mean the greatest Star Wars character in history, Dexter Jettster?
Right.
You mean the best Star Wars character in history, Watto?
But yeah, I will say it's a closer race than I thought. I still think I prefer Phantom Menace. If I had to just put on a movie in the background to watch while I'm doing other things, I'm probably putting on Phantom Menace because it's more interesting, I think.
It's like such a close call, because I think what
And
this
that is
whole-
with the context that neither of these are good.
I was gonna say, I think what the whole experience has given me, has made me realize more than before. It's just that George Lucas is a sociopath and should not helm movies.
Right. And he
Yes,
really
absolutely.
hasn't. He really hasn't
Yeah.
since.
I think either he or Hollywood have realized that.
Well, he's an ideas man. You know, he has these good ideas, and then everyone else has to come in and be like, these are not like great, but
He's good at making rough drafts.
Yeah,
He just needs someone else to
You say
refine them.
that, but the ideas here, in this one especially, still aren't good.
Well, the idea,
Right. And to be fair, the ideas in Star Wars are just Dune. So maybe he's
Right.
not good at ideas.
And
Oh,
the ideas
yeah.
here are just ideas that are from the other movies that he didn't write.
Well, funny enough, I found this out recently. So Empire Strikes Back is his least favorite Star Wars movie, and it's also the one that he had
He
least.
did the
say.
least on, right?
Yeah. So you know,
'Cause that one he didn't even direct.
No.
of the
no,
original trilogy, did he?
He didn't direct any of the original trilogy.
And
I thought he directed New
I
Hope.
know he
No,
directed New Hope, didn't he?
No, Spielberg did New Hope, didn't he?
No, Spielberg
feel like
wasn't
that's
allowed to
just
be involved
untrue.
with Star Wars.
Wait, no, I'm
Yeah, no,
I'm looking-
George Lucas directed
Yeah,
New Hope.
but the point is, all of the ideas in these movies are based around ideas from the original trilogy, most of which he had nothing to do with. Like the whole character of Anakin Skywalker being the father of Luke Skywalker from the original, or the whole idea of Darth Vader being like, that wasn't his idea. You don't like that.
Right.
It's
Right,
He
that
just
was-
introduced those two characters, and then someone else said, "Hey, what if they were the same character? Wouldn't that be neat?"
correct, right? And it's
And
I
it
don't
was.
know.
It was neat.
It
I
was,
thought it was
neat.
neat.
I don't think he's even a great ideas man. I think he's a crazy person who made 3 movies that are very bad, that for some reason people like. 2 of them I can stomach. You know? Like, I don't know. We got to wrap this up because we've been talking for an
my
hour
final
and
thought
20
is
minutes.
It's shocking how bad episode 2 is. That's the end result of all this.
The
Yeah,
takeaway
really,
of
that's-
this series of movies that we watched is Attack of the Clones.
Attack
being
of the
movie.
Clones. It is a movie with a giant praying mantis. And that's
But-
the best thing that comes out of that movie.
The fact that movie somehow got released theatrically baffles me.
Other than that, what we have is next week we're watching more bad stuff. 'Cause
We're
Dalton
watching
hates-
something. Somehow, we're going to watch something worse than the Star Wars prequels.
It's true.
So
Dalton
that'll be
just wants
exciting.
us to suffer, and that's what this.
Dalton hates us.
I've
This
actually
is
got,
this is how Dalton is punishing me for not coming to his wedding.
we've got 4.
This is how Dalton is punishing me for coming to his wedding.
We're starting a series of 4 movies that we're gonna watch next week, and I'm very excited.
And then
Yes, a
fifth movie that we're gonna
quality of movies, and then a 5th movie of Josh and mine's choosing.
I'm so nervous. Are you guys gonna tell me what it is after we're done recording?
I still don't even know what it is. Apparently, me and Josh came up with something. I have no idea what it is, though.
Dan, I'll DM it to you real quick.
Okay.
But no, I don't. I think I want to tell you when we watch the final one of our quadrilogy because I want to get your reaction for it.
Ugh. All right, cool. Join us next week, everybody, as we watch the God's Not Dead franchise, all 4 of them. We will see you.
And remember, Palpatine did a big spin in this movie.
He did.
He did a very big spin.
He said,
Like multiple spins. He was like a corkscrew.
And
then he just spun.
It goes,
All right.
Right.
We'll see you on the next episode of Semi Pro.